stories now to market. Midday trade in the first trading day of the week. The market is up already by close to 0.5%, trending at 37,917 points. Now, this is in line with most analysts' expectations that we could see the market continue the rally that we saw last week. Now, some of the early gainers include Nestle, which hit a new year high last week and is now trading at over 1,180 naira per share. Now, this is it's closely followed by MRS, Guaranty Trust Bank, First City Monument Bank, and EcoBank Transnational Incorporated (ETI). On the laggers chart, we have First Bank of Nigeria Holdings, Fidelity Bank, AG Levantis, Abbey Building, and Cadbury. Now, for more on what's driving the gains, we're seeing right now, I'm now being joined from the Nigerian NSE trading floor by Sam Ine. He's a stockbroker at TFS Securities and Investments. Thank you so much, Sam, for taking the time out to join us. Now, let's take a look at overall general market performance. The index is looking good at the moment, and we could see a positive close for today's trade. Now, your broad view on how investors are going to play the market this week, and what stocks you think will be hot for portfolio investors?
Talking about hot stocks, I think that's asking the obvious questions. Forty Oil, Transcorp, Nestle, say FCMB, GTB are most likely to be the hot picks for this week. Let me quickly add Cadbury and Unilever as well. And this is because of the positive developments as it relates to the sector and to the specific companies.
Okay, when you talk about sector, yes, Transcorp, yes, but looking at 40 oil, we know for the oil and gas sector, we know that there's still a bit of uncertainty there, especially since we still have the PIB still hanging. But perhaps, do you think it could still be the strong third quarter earnings that we saw of 40 oil? And I did think that there would be some profit taking now after we've seen that stock consistently rise in value.
Yeah, 40 oil has actually beat my expectation as an analyst, because I had thought that the rally was going to peak at about 71 and then begin to experience the usual market correction. But I believe what the market is doing concerning 40 oil and Transcorp is what you might want to call a price adjustment. You know, basically 40 oil with other investors acquired the Geregu power plant, and before then the price was trading about say 35 naira, and the company has now taken over, and we know that the regulations as part of the documents that were signed during the privatization process is that there had to be say new investment by the new core owners to be able to upgrade the plant capacity, to be able to strengthen other things that is needed to be able to improve the total generating output for the nation. So I think what the market is basically doing is readjusting the price of these equities in consonance with the assets that have just been acquired recently during the privatization process.
Okay, now we're looking at Transcorp trading at around 1.94 kobo per share. Now we've seen a phenomenal rise in this stock since the beginning of the year. I've heard a couple of analyst fund managers saying that they will review their forecast for this stock going forward. Now, would you also be doing that?
Yeah, basically, I said in a previous interview that Transcorp is grossly undervalued. Transcorp is about the highest value stock we have at the moment, and the market is basically adjusting to that. If you look at the quarter 3 earnings, the profit margin is about 44%. That is highest, or rather, that is very high compared to the industry or sectoral standard. So Transcorp is a very undervalued stock, and any discerning investor will want to pick Transcorp for the long term. It's a very good stock. I recommend it highly.
Okay, now so let's go into the power sector from there on. We've seen a couple of activities recently, or especially last week. We saw the physical handover of power assets to the power distribution and generating companies. Transcorp, obviously, one of them now. But then some challenges have been highlighted, especially by the chairman of the National Council on Privatization, Mr. Atedo Peter said. He says that yes, a lot has been done so far. The federal government has invested a lot. We're now seeing private sector participation, but there is still transmission issue. There's still transmission issues. Gas supply is still a challenge, and he did say that if those two major factors were not addressed quickly, we might see these power sector reforms experiencing a setback. Your view on that?
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Atedo that we have issues with gas supply because of pipeline vandalization. We also have issues with the pressure of the gas that is being supplied. And I believe that is being addressed by the federal government. The other issue has to do with the transmission facilities. A lot are obsolete. They need to be upgraded. More need to be added. And I remember Professor Noble saying that they're actually working on this. I've read somewhere that a lot of funds have been set aside to be able to expand the transmission facilities. We've gotten some money from World Bank, from IFC, from China Exim, and the proceeds of the privatization of the NIPP 10 plants, I understand a great chunk of it will also be devoted to upgrading the transmission facilities. So basically, government is aware of these challenges because government is seriously desirous and working towards achieving the total generating capacity to about 20 megawatts. And if you achieve this and you have a problem with transmission, then it's like you've done nothing. So government is really working to ensure that these transmission facilities are expanded, they're upgraded to ensure that the whole objective of uninterrupted power supply is achieved in the nation.
Okay, do you think that would also see a reduction in government interference with the transmission company of Nigeria? Because I do know that some concerns have been expressed in that quarter as to how much of an interference we're seeing the federal government have with the TCN going forward.
Basically, we know that in the past, issues like this do crop up. I agree. I have not studied the details of the contract that was signed between the federal government and Manitoba, but I want to expect sincerely that because the sector is now private sector driven, I want to expect that there will be little or no interference from the federal government, because you can't have a sector that is private sector driven and you have much government interference. Then you probably want to repeat what happened in Brazil when they also privatized the power sector and they're not really achieving the objective. I think government will learn from previous experience and hands over and just ensure that the company is acting according to what has been agreed, on paper. I also know that you have the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission that has actually done a lot to ensure that this whole efforts of the privatization succeeds at the end of the day. I know that another major challenge has to do with utility rates, and we know we have the multi-year tariff order structure, which ensures that annual readjustments are made to this tariff, and you have a serious major readjustments every 5 years. Now with this, CapEx investment by the new core owners will be reasonably recouped with the tariff structure that will be in place. So if you have much of government interference, then it's going to really affect a whole lot of things. So I expect that it will be private sector driven.
Okay.
There will be little or no government interference, and that the whole chain will be able to competitively work out itself to ensure value for money for the investor and for the users of power.